Victoria Winters. My journey is beginning. A journey that I hope will open the doors of life to me and link my past with my future. A journey that will bring me to a strange and dark place, to the edge of the sea, high atop Widow's Hill, a house called Collinwood. A world I've never known, with people I've never met. People who tonight are still only shadows in my mind, but who will soon fill the days and nights of my tomorrows.
We don't have many visitors here, Miss Winters, but you'll have your day off in several evenings a week.
I hadn't even thought about that.
And of course, there's my daughter, Carolyn. You're about the same age. I'm sure you'll get along very well. She's a lovely kid.
Slowly, Buster. Get lost.
Oh, great! Oh, Harriet. Oh, you better send the sheriff over. He to bring it up again.
Go home, it started. Now. A friend of the family. Now go home before the cops get here. Take her home, Haskell.
Now, wait just a minute. What gives you the right to tell me
You go home with him, Miss Stoddard, before I take you over my knee and paddle you right here in the middle of the dance floor. Now go on.
Roast beef rare and coffee, right?
Right, I'm starved.
You are also a jerk.
Beg your pardon.
Jerk. J-E-R-K.
Well, thanks.
Don't mention it. The name's Maggie Evans. And right now I'm the last link in a long string of gossip. Sandwich rare enough for you?
Oh, it's fine. But I still don't understand
It's
why.
like this. A chauffeur tells a desk clerk, who tells a housekeeper, who tells me that you're going to work up in Collinwood. That makes you a jerk.
But why?
Listen, honey. The Collins family is the biggest thing in this town. They own the biggest cannery, the biggest fishing fleet, and the biggest, darkest, gloomiest old house. And they're kooks. Every one of them.
Oh, we sure do breed them in this family, don't we? My mother hasn't left the place in 18 years. My little cousin tries to kill his own father. These walls shouldn't be paneled, Vicky. They should be padded. And you never answered. I remember the telephone rang and rang, and you absolutely refused to pick it up.
Well, could you blame me? Halloween, midnight, 3 calls for the ghost of Collinswood were enough for me. I suppose all your friends were very angry with me.
Oh, no, Mother. No one could ever be angry with you. You've always been very kind. A bit of a kook, maybe, but kind.
A bit of a kook? Is that any way to speak to your mother?
If it makes you laugh, it is. Oh, I wish you'd laugh more often. It sounds so marvelous in this old gloomy house.
We have had some wonderful times together, haven't we, darling?
Yes. And we'll have them again, right?
Right.
That phone call from Joe, is it a date?
Yes, he wants to meet me for lunch. But I thought if the constable was coming,
Why
maybe I
don't you
should
run
wait around.
along? Unless you don't trust me to do the right thing.
Don't rub it in. Joe, I need help.
What's wrong?
I'd like you to take me to lunch.
I thought I was going to take you to dinner.
Well, let's just make it an early dinner. Like now.
Why, honey, what is it?
It's Burke Devlin.
Burke, what's he got to do with this?
I saw him earlier this morning and he was... Well, he said some things I just couldn't stand.
Burke Devlin was here earlier today asking about him.
Why didn't you tell me Burke was here?
Because he came to see your uncle.
Well, as long as he didn't come just to see you.
Last night was quite a night, wasn't it?
Yes.
How soon did you get up?
Sooner than I wish I had. Vicky, you're pulling too hard. There isn't enough to cover the mattress over here. Sorry. Hey, now there's nothing here. Oh, why don't I let you make your bed by yourself?
I'm quite an expert at this. You know how many beds there were in the foundling home? 130. Seemed like 1,000. Of course, I didn't make all of them. I only helped some of the littler children.
Why don't you sit down, Burke? You'll be more comfortable.
Hi, Carolyn. I'm just going to take the hem up on this dress. You want to help me?
I don't think you need any help.
Oh, I'm not all that good. Back in the foundling home.
Look, I'm sick and tired of hearing your stories about the foundling home. Little orphan Annie does pretty well for herself.
Hey, what's hit you?
That's a pretty dress, Vicky. You planning on wearing it for a big date tonight?
No. I've been meaning to take up the hem for a long time. I just never got around to it. Now I decided that today I might as well.
I'll bet you did.
What is this?
You are really something, you know that? Walking around here with that innocent smile and sweet stare. Poor little Vicky Winters who only wants to do the right thing. Well, I've just about had it with you.
Listen, I think you just better tell me what you're talking about.
Why don't you go home, Vicky? Why don't you pack your bags and go back to that precious foundling home?
And maybe you just like trouble.
And I've had enough of this. What's the big plan for tonight, Vicky? Dinner? A few dances? A little more talk?
I think you better leave.
You and Burke Devlin. I never would have believed it.
There is nothing to believe. Can't you understand that?
What did you talk about, Vicky? The price of sardines?
He can be very dangerous to your family.
Oh, I get it. Now comes the big speech telling me to stay away from him and leave the field clear for you.
No, not that speech. Just one question. A question you asked me just a little while ago. Whose side are you on?
Uncle Roger, you said that Burke had already left.
Apparently, I didn't see him.
Then why didn't Vicky just stay at the hotel instead of making you come all that distance in a storm?
Well, I may be an old fogey to you because I'm your uncle, but I'm not Vicky's uncle.
You mean you and Vicky? Oh, no. Then she'd be my aunt.
Well, is the boss available?
I think so.
Well, you must have had quite a time in Bangor. Is there more to that Bangor trip than you told me?
I think Burke is a dangerous man to have for a friend. He's unpredictable.
If he's so unpredictable, then why did you take that trip and spend the night in the same hotel with him?
Here, because it's the best hotel in town. That's why. What's so unusual about that?
How do I know what happened?
Well, what difference does it make?
That's what I'd like to know. Why is it so important to you?
I think that as long as you live here at Collinwood, everything you do reflects on us.
And does nothing you do reflect on anyone?
Thanks.
Burke Devlin, sent to prison by the cruel Collins family, returns to wreak revenge upon them.
Do you think that's why I'm here?
Matter of fact, I don't. Unless you have deep, dark designs on my little cousin's governess.
That's the second time you've mentioned Miss Winters. I think you're trying to tell me something.
Miss Winters? Do you mean she had dinner with you in your hotel room last night? And you still don't call her Vicky?
I'll get around to it. Just give me time.
I don't think I will.
What?
Give you time.
In all seriousness, kitten, remember one thing. Burke is not a man to play around with.
What makes you think I'm playing around with him?
Well, perhaps you're not. But did it ever occur to you that he may be playing around with you?
I don't believe it. But even if he is, we ought to have a lot of fun.
I'm sorry to have been so long.
Oh, here, let me help you with that.
Oh, thank you, Burke. Have you two been having an interesting conversation?
Yes, he's been telling me about some of the places he's visited.
None of them have ever seemed as much like home as Collinwood.
I'm warning you. Maybe you'll listen to me now.
What are you doing with a water pistol?
It's my Uncle Roger's, and it's loaded. And I'm warning you, if you don't leave me alone, I'll blow your head off.
I'm sorry if I've kept you all waiting.
Nearly for 20 years, my dear, and it was worth every one of them. Don't you think so, Judge? I have thought so for years.
Elizabeth, what is it?
I killed Paul Stoddard. And that man was my accomplice.
I feel that the possibilities of things in this world are so infinite that it's difficult to conceive of another.
And they're kooks.
I would never marry a man I knew well. How boring that would be.
Well, I'm afraid there's only one answer, Vicky. Ghosts.
Carolyn, I'm not joking.
Neither am I. Listen, we have spooks in all sizes and shapes in this mausoleum. And if you haven't seen them yet, just stick around. They'll be here.
It's Maggie Evans. It's Maggie Evans.
No.
Pop, I've got to get out of this house before I go stark raving mad.
No, you can't leave the house. It's too dangerous.
Pop, if you say that once more, I'm going to scream my head off.
Maggie.
But I'll never forget the day that you intercepted that pass in the last minute of the game.
Football game.
You ran 65 yards for a touchdown.
Were you there?
Was I there? Who do you think was leading all the cheers? Of course I was there.
And you know the final score.
Okay, so we lost 35 to 6. You still scored the 6 points, didn't you?
Oh, I certainly did. I think it's probably the last time I ever scored in my life. Listen, what does a cash customer do around here for a cup of coffee?
He helps himself.
Okay, I know how to do that.
Joe, just stay there. I'll get it for you. I wouldn't want you to think that the service is that bad.
Well, I'm used to good service. I'm a big tipper.
Oh, Joe, I'm sorry.
Tell it to the cup, it's in pretty bad shape. Listen, at least I'll get to see how you handle a broom now.
I'll sweep it up later.
You gonna leave the pieces right there?
I said I'll get it later.
Hey, it's only half a cup.
I'm sorry.
Maggie, what are you doing? You give me too little, now you give me too much.
Joe, I'll get you another cup.
No, it's all right. Never mind. I'll take my chances with this one. I'm afraid of what you might do to it. Here, come on around here and sit down. I knew I should have gotten it myself. Hey, look, is anything wrong?
I'm just not up to my usual lovely self. You've convinced yourself there's another man in my life. And you're really jealous.
I'm not even going to dignify that with an answer. Now, are you going to take him off or not?
No.
Well, then maybe we just ought to cancel out the dinner.
Either that or find a place that serves baby food.
Oh, Mrs. Collins, you're talking about a very inbred family.
Several of my my ancestors are buried here.
I don't mean that unkindly. They're just not terribly used to a Collins doing the unexpected. Actually, they should be.
Why did I do it?
Why did you marry me? Is that what you're asking?
Why, yes, I suppose it is. Why did I? It's insane. We barely know each other. Why did you want me?
Because I thought I'd like the kind of life you could give me. I thought I'd enjoy being a Collins of Collinsport. And then, of course, we were accomplices at Burke's trial.
Yes. Perjury does make strange bedfellows, doesn't it?
Well, it isn't exactly as if David had been alone. He had his father.
Yes, well, Roger was never really a father to him. In fact, he's the bigger baby of the two.
I heard you were separated.
Well, even when we were together, we were separated. You see, I had a great rival for Roger's affections. Roger himself. He won out. I never could think as much of him as he thought of himself.
I won't have it. You understand, Roger? I simply will not have it.
Oh, really, Liz? All this anguish at breakfast. It can't be good for the digestion.
Roger, can't you ever think of anything but yourself?
Well, darling, when you get right down to it, what else is there?
Roger!
What do you think you're doing?
Get away from my wife.
Is this your idea of a joke, Collins?
Far from it. I demand to know what you're doing here.
I'm renewing an old acquaintance.
You have no business with my wife. From now on, stay away from her.
Is that an order?
Roger, you don't understand.
Be quiet. I'm talking to Devlin.
I'm listening.
Well, you better listen. Stay away from my wife.
And if I refuse?
I'll kill you. Nothing would give me greater pleasure.
Is your roast beef well cooked?
Any way you want it.
I'll have a well-done roast beef sandwich.
Anything on it?
Is your lettuce well washed?
I did it myself this morning in the laundromat. How about some mayonnaise, too?
Is it fresh?
As a daisy. Coming right up.
I always made my own mayonnaise.
I bet it was good, too.
Mr. Malloy liked it. When you've been a man's housekeeper as many years as I have, you learn to know what he likes.
I'm sure you do.
It turns out the last person to see her said she was going out to look for a wallet she dropped.
Did they search for her?
All night long, I could hear their voices calling her name. It had an eerie sound.
Who was searching?
Everyone. The police, the sheriff, young Joe Haskell, even Burke Devlin.
Burke Devlin?
Yes, that was a sight. He was right here in this house. That was something to see.
I wish I'd been awake.
Yes, and he was really bothered by this. Really worried. Now, when a man like Mr. Devlin is worried, I know something terrible is going on.
Where could she be?
Well, ask me. I'll go look in your Aunt Elizabeth's crystal soup bowls for the answer. But I'll tell you this. I think we've probably seen the last of poor Miss Winters.
No.
Well, when I see men carrying guns, I know that death is somewhere around close.
Why were they carrying guns?
Well, they think old Matthew's got her.
But he wouldn't hurt her.
Wouldn't he?
Matthew wouldn't hurt a fly.
Maybe not flies, but people. You ought to be glad you're not in his clutches.
I wouldn't be afraid of him.
That's what you say. I wouldn't want to be alone with him, now would you?
Why not? I trust Matthew more than I trust some other people.
Oh, yes. Well, you trust the ghosts of the widows. You do. You're a fine judge of character.
Is that so? Well, maybe I know something that might surprise you.
Well, just keep it to yourself. I'm not in the mood for surprises today.
I wouldn't tell you anyway. Do they really think Matthew's got her?
They're searching the beaches right now. Think maybe if her body fell from the cliffs to the rocks below. Of course, if it washed out to sea, they may never find her.
They'll find her.
One way or the other. I don't mean to interfere, but I hope there hasn't been any more trouble.
More trouble? I wasn't aware that there had been any in the first place.
Well, I could hardly help noticing that the police had been here again.
Oh, you couldn't, could you?
I saw their car in the driveway.
I see.
It bothers me to think of anyone in this family being in any kind of trouble.
Well, thank you, Mrs. Johnson, but nobody is in any trouble.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that. Because with all due respect, I like to think of this family as something very close, very important to me.
Well, you should be commended for your loyalty. As for the police, believe me, it was of nothing important.
Oh, well, I'm happy to hear that.
Hello, Mrs. Johnson.
Good evening, Mrs. Collins.
Mrs. Johnson, there is something you can do for me if you wouldn't mind.
Of course.
I would like some coffee for my brandy. Very strong and very black. Would you go in the kitchen and make some, please? I think Mrs. Collins would enjoy a cup, too.
Yes, of course. I smell something fishy, and it's not the wind off the bay.
There are many other things that have to be explained much closer to home.
Such as?
Burke Devlin.
I'm not going to start that argument again.
Indeed we are. Until I know what you two are up to.
I've told you, I'm trying to keep him pacified.
Pacified? That's a strange way of pacification.
Well, we want to keep his mind off the manslaughter case.
I told you never to mention those words.
Then don't keep bringing up the subject of Burke, and stop suspecting my methods.
Burke Devlin. Burke Devlin. Burke Devlin!
Mrs. Johnson, you are here to dust those things, not to break them. Please be a little more careful. They're very fragile.
Well, so am I. So am I, Mrs. Collins. I break very easy.
What are you talking about?
Well, my nerves aren't what they used to be, not with all the goings-on around here.
I'm afraid I don't know what you mean by goings-on.
Don't you? What about last night?
What about it?
Well, the spooks and ghosts and whatnot, I've a good mind to give my notice. Everybody's changing. Something happened to everybody, and I don't know what it is.
Neither do I. But certainly everybody is not changing. You're not, Mrs. Johnson. You remain the same.
Well, that's because I'm a person that believes in minding her own business.
So I've noticed.
I don't mess with what shouldn't be messed with. Leave well enough alone, that's my motto.
And a very admirable one it is.
Well, I tell you, if everyone were like me, there wouldn't be any problems.
I couldn't agree with you more. Mrs. Johnson, what are you doing?
I'm trying to put out the fire so I can clean your hearth here.
You mustn't do that. Leave the fire alone. I want it left burning all the time. It gets awfully chilly in here.
Well, it won't take me but a minute.
Mrs. Johnson, you heard what I said. Don't touch that fire. Don't ever touch it, ever. Do you understand that? I want that fire burning all the time.
Yes, Mrs. Collins.
Thank you.
Do you know what went on at Collinwood last night?
That's what I pay you for, Mrs. Johnson, to find out.
They had a seance.
A what?
You heard me, a seance, where they call on the spirits.
Oh, what an incredible bore this promises to be.
We're calling you, Josette. We're calling you.
Vicky?
She's going into a trance. Speak to us. Speak to us, Josette.
I smell perfume in the room. It's jasmine. Josette's perfume.
She's here. She's with us. Speak to us.
Il y a danger ici.
She's speaking French.
Vicky doesn't know French.
It must be Josette.
Il y a des pierres tumulaires, des tombeaux vides. Il y a une morte qui n'est pas morte. Elle marche dans le monde. What does it mean? Il y a une qui dort, sans sommeil, sans réveil. Il y a un petit garçon, un enfant qui est en danger sérieuse. Il y avait des feux pendant les siècles. Il y aura un autre feu prochainement. Les flammes toucheront le ciel. Les flammes consomment tous. Il y a une présence endiable. Il y a quelqu'un qui va détruire. Cette personne s'appelle... Cette personne s'appelle... Cette personne...
There's too many strange things going on around here, and until some of them are explained, nobody's going to be wandering around that girl. Nobody goes upstairs.
I smell perfume in the room. It's jasmine.
What in the world is that noise?
Oh, that's Dr. Guthrie doing his homework. Now, if you don't mind, I've got other things to do.
There are some things that only a mother can give a boy. Aunts and governesses are no substitute. In fact, one could say that it's even better for a little boy to be with his mother than with his father.
You could?
No, David, I didn't say I could. I said one could. I really must speak to Vicky about your syntax.
My what?
Never mind. And also, it's very good for your mother to be with you. She needs you. Her life hasn't been very easy.
It hasn't?
Oh, David, I wish you would stop asking me these two-word questions. You're doing it only to irritate me. I'm trying to have a man-to-man talk with you, boy.
My favorite playmate was Bert Devlin.
Glad to see you're being sensible.
No, I'm not the one who's being sensible. He is.
Well, I'm glad he's capable of it.
Oh, he's capable of many things. Like finding a new playmate. I'm referring, of course, to dear, sweet Aunt Laura.
What?
Once a playmate, always a playmate.
All right, Carolyn. If you have something to say, say it and leave.
Why did you lie about it?
About what?
Why did you say my mother wasn't here?
Who said she was here?
Bert Devlin told Vicky he saw her here. Why didn't you say anything about it?
Well, I think that when I was asked, it slipped my mind.
Uh-huh.
I hardly think it was worth mentioning. Let's see now. What was it? She was out for a walk. The storm came up. She stopped by here to see if I wouldn't be more comfortable up at the house. When I told her I was fine, she left. Now, that's hardly worth mentioning.
Uh-huh.
And certainly not worth discussing.
I wasn't discussing anything.
Mm-hmm. Well, I wouldn't discuss it with anyone else if I were you. Is that clear?
I'd say it was very clear.
Good. Oh, Carolyn, do you want this or don't you?
I don't think I need it now. It's funny how fast the weather changes. Don't you think it's funny?
The whole town seems to have barricaded itself inside. It's as though we're in some sort of a siege.
Maybe we are, with a madman on the loose.
Bert, I just can't forget that night that I was with Maggie and heard the dogs howling and went to call you, and then when I tried to get back into it...
Okay, let's just try to forget about it.
Well, I just can't forget those gashes on her neck
Vicky,
and
stop it. Now, come on, we agreed to forget about it for a change.
You're right. Maybe we should dance.
Good idea. Hey, relax, will you?
I'm sorry, I just can't.
We'll try.
Bert, maybe you should just take me home. It's late and I have to get up early.
Well, the doctor said he would drop by with some news. He said he'd be here later on.
Will it make that much difference if Willie's blood sample corresponds to Maggie's? Will that find her?
Maybe he had an appointment he had to get to.
He had an appointment, all right, with me. And he didn't keep it.
What was that?
Nothing to get excited about. The woman got a little scared because she saw a bat. A bat! You know how women are. They're afraid they'll get caught in their hair.
Women who are afraid of bats shouldn't hang around the waterfront. There are always bats flying around here at night. Oh, she didn't have to scream like that.
Yeah, for a minute I thought I had a murder on my hands.
Don't say that word.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
Mrs. Collins, I will not put up with this. You are not in charge of this house, Mrs. Collins. Mrs. Stoddard is. I take my orders from her, not you.
What are you talking about, Mrs. Johnson?
This note from you, that's what.
I see no reason why Roger and I cannot have our breakfast at any hour we choose.
Well, I've a good many good reasons. First of all, I have only 2 hands.
I want to see you alone. I'm sorry, Mrs. Johnson.
That's all right. It's par for the course in this house. Mrs. Collins knows how I feel. Whatever happens now is up to her.
Doctor,
Yes?
you said earlier that Dr. Woodard was the most brilliant student in your class at medical school. You were being generous. Actually, I think he was the second most brilliant student.
Well, they didn't take me as seriously as they should have, because I'm a woman.
My dear, that can be a mixed blessing, can't it?
It's never easy for a woman to admit that she's making a fool of herself over a man.
What do you mean?
Dave, I don't have to draw diagrams, do I? Besides, it's not news to you. You guessed it yourself some time ago.
Guessed, what?
That I'm emotionally involved with Barnabas Collins. When I'm with him, I don't think of myself as a doctor at all, but only as a woman. All right, I'm ready.
Fascinating piece, isn't it, Miss Hoffman? The original Barnabas Collins had it made as a wedding present for Josette. Oh, do you find that amusing?
I'm sorry. No, it's just my nerves, the storm, and just now the clock didn't strike. Something's wrong with it.
Oh, dear, I hope not. Old Pruitt used to take care of it. He's dead now, of course. Whoever bought his shop cares more about selling cheap jewelry than fixing fine clocks. It's the sign of the times, I'm afraid.
It is fascinating, isn't it?
Yes.
I only hope it matches the chandelier in the West Wing, don't you?
Yes. Oh, Carolyn, let me help you.
I'm sorry it took so long, but Mrs. Johnson isn't feeling well, so I had to make it myself.
It didn't take long at all.
Well, let's have some coffee now.
No, I can't. I promised Mother I would help her.
Would you like me to help you with anything?
Vicky, I made this coffee for you at great expense to my time and temper, so you'd better drink it and enjoy it.
Carolyn enjoys dramatizing sometimes.
Yes, guess so.
Roger. Roger, no. No, I wish it were Roger.
Miss Hoffman!
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It's just, I just haven't known. Oh, I just haven't known what to do. I'm Julia Hoffman.
Know what you did?
What do you mean?
Know what you did to Dr. Woodard?
No, I didn't do anything.
Yes, you did.
No, Barnabas did it. It was Barnabas.
You helped.
I couldn't help it. I had to do it to protect him. You understand that, don't you, Sarah?
You shouldn't have done it. I like Dr. Woodard. You shouldn't have done it.
Are you angry with me?
You shouldn't have done it.
He forced me to. It was force.
Don't understand.
Storm clouds have gathered in the night sky over Collinwood, and a monumental storm is beginning. A storm so violent that all the elements of nature will rage against one another. For one woman, this will be a night she will never forget.
Please, leave me alone. Please.
You look distressed. And why are you here in the dark? Why don't you switch on the lights?
The lights went off. It must have been a the power lines from the storm fell down.
The lights are burning downstairs. You simply forgot to turn them on.
Oh.
You're getting absent-minded. But then brilliant people tend to be absent-minded.
It isn't working, Barnabas.
What do you mean?
Your plan.
My plan?
It isn't working. Your plan to drive me out of my mind. I realize what you're doing, and I refuse to be frightened. I will not be frightened.
You saw the ghost of Woodard again, didn't you?
Of course I did, because you arranged it.
My dear Julia.
Don't say that. Stop calling me that.
What can I say to convince you that I've had nothing to do with what you've seen?
Nothing. Please, I think you better go now.
Yes. The storm is subsiding. Well, perhaps you can get some rest now. Good night, Julia.
Quentin, this is a house. This is a house of lies. The only way to bring these people back to the truth is to smile and lie just as they do.
You're quite right, Julia. And I've had a few years' practice in the art of deception, so I ought to be pretty good.
Let me get you some more coffee.
Yes, this is exactly the time for two close friends to have a nice, quiet cup of coffee.
Vicky, why are you crying? You'll be sorry that you did that.
You deserve a great deal more than just a slap in the face.
Would you take the lieutenant up to the house, Liz? I want to talk to Laura for a moment.
Of course.
Thank you for your cooperation, Mrs. Collins.
Quite welcome. Well, Liz certainly was very quiet through all that.
Liz is puzzled. And frankly, so am I.
Why?
Because I have a feeling that you know something you're not telling. Cassandra,
Go back to bed, Roger.
I want to talk to you.
No, not now.
Yes, now!
Please don't keep me here. Roger, there's something I must do.
At this hour?
Yes.
You're coming upstairs with me.
No, I'm not. What you think of me doesn't matter anymore.
When did it matter?
You can figure that out by yourself. Now, please let go of me.
No! Listen to me. This marriage of ours is a mistake.
You think so?
You're not interested in me.
No.
You never have been.
Roger, you're keeping me from doing something I must do.
What? What is so important to you?
I've not got time for this.
When did you ever have time for me?
Never. Never.
Cassandra!
Goodbye, Roger.
I was willing to do anything for you. I offered you my life so that you could share it, but you weren't willing to share it, were you?
No. Now you have learned the truth. There is nothing between us, and there never has been.
Cassandra, there was in the beginning.
I used you. Face it. I used you.
For what? For what?
For what I'm going to do now.
Well, I always seem to be at a loss when it comes to understanding women.
Prince of fire, I call upon the flame to summon you. I call on all the dark creatures of nature to summon you here to me. Prince of fire, rise Hear me as I call to you. Rise from the curling flames. I summon you in the name of the 7 plagues, in the name of the charred and blackened stars that reigned at my beginnings, to rise out of the darkness of the earth. As I call you forth from the mouth of the dragon, and of the beast, and of the false prophet. I call you forth from the subterranean rivers of blood, from the smoke of torment which rises forever and ever. In the name of every evil spirit, it's evil and obedient only to you, I evoke you. Come here to me. Now! Now!
Angelique.
Barnabas! Barnabas, what are you doing here?
I-
You promised me you'd never
I
come back.
had to see you again.
Don't you know how dangerous it is for me? If my husband were to catch you here, I'd be ruined.
Angelique!
You've got to get out of here. I'm right here, darling.
Darling, in the excitement, I almost completely forgot the gift I had for you.
Gift?
You remember that art gallery in Boston?
Yes, yes, of course.
You were in love with this at the time.
Oh,
What's the matter? Has it lost its charm?
oh no. Oh, no, it's very beautiful.
Are you feeling all right?
I'm fine, darling. Oh, it's just that something about your thoughtfulness always touches me so deeply.
I am alive. I am alive. I will never go back.
You have made me, given me life. You must have some reason. Tell me what I am to do, and I will do it. But let us talk no more.
I think it's time that you and I had a little talk.
Yes. I think I'll like talking to you, Nicholas.
Oh? Why?
Because you're not like he is.
Adam?
Yes.
What's the matter with him?
I can't bear the sight of him. He's ugly, he's boring, he's stupid.
Sorry you feel that way.
Do you feel all right?
This place bothers me. I don't like it. Is this where you kept him?
He stayed here. Yes.
Well, there are many books here, Eve. I used to read every night. And Carolyn when she would bring my food, we'd play cards.
How exciting.
And we talked. Carolyn has a very good mind.
Yes, I'm sure she has.
You were meant to be mine.
And you think of me as a piece of property, as something you own.
No.
A woman doesn't like to be thought of in those terms.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to hurt your feelings.
I beg your pardon. I don't believe this lady and I have met.
Mr. Collins.
Would you be kind enough to introduce me?
No. No introductions. Please.
What a stunning woman. Who, may I ask, is she?
I don't know.
Really? I had the distinct impression that you were rather well acquainted.
Well, she claims she knows me from a while back.
And you were trying to recapture old memories, I understand.
Look, Mr. Collins, I know what it looked like, but it's not what you think. And I can't explain it.
What makes you think an explanation is necessary?
All right, then. Think what you want to. But it was a mistake.
I agree with you there. But fortunately, it was a mistake that has been discovered in time.
What do you mean?
Apparently, we've all been more than a little mistaken about your character.
Look, I'm not talking about my character. And you know that.
But it would be a greater mistake not telling Vicky.
You're going to tell Vicky?
Really, Clark? Did you think for a second that I wouldn't?
Look, I'll have to ask you not to do that.
Well, I'm afraid it would be an exercise in futility.
Time and space. I command those powers to open the way for one who wishes to return to another time, another place. Her mind is suspended now, free of all things present, waiting to be guided back and given temporary refuge past. She is waiting. She is waiting. Take her back to the year 1795.